The 2016 Giro d'Italia starts tomorrow, May 6th, in the Dutch city of Apeldoorn with a 9.8-kilometre individual time trial, and then will continue with two further stages, also taking place in the Netherlands. After a day's rest, there will be 18 stages to reach the finish on May 29th, mostly in Italy, with two stages dipping into France. That will be the 19th and the 20th. Now, Giro d'Italia is the first of the season's three Grand Tour races, with about 198 riders competing, and 2016 marks its 99th edition. Backed by popular demand to run us through the betting markets for the Giro is Ian O'Sutherland, owner and author at cyclingbetting.co.uk. Ian, it's great to have you back on the show.
Thank you very much, Natalie. Good to be back.
Now, it's the first of the Grand Tour races and second popular of the three tours behind Tour de France, and it's rare for cyclists to actually ride in all three tours. Is that why we're missing three of the big four names?
Yes, it's incredibly difficult to ride all three tours. Some will focus on the Giro and the Tour de France. Some will focus on the Tour de France and the Tour of Spain later in the year. And then some riders this year in particular are looking to focus on the Tour de France and the Olympics, the Olympic road race, which is happening later in the year. Mm-hmm. So this year it seems that some of the best riders in the world have actually decided to focus on the Tour de France, with Chris Froome, Nairo Quintana, Alberto Contador and Fabio Aru heading to France instead. But it's not to say that we don't have a quality field here. We've got Vincenzo Nibali, former winner of the race, and Mikel Landa, who finished third last year.
Yeah, because Nibali actually won this competition back in 2013, and he is sort of the favourite to win. You can get him priced 2.62 Ball Sport, and then you've got Landa, which comes straight after him, 3.5 Coral, obviously, which is Nibali's former teammate. Is it between these two?
The bookies seem to think so. Between the two of them, they make up about 70% probability of winning the race, which is incredibly high. Basically saying that out of the remaining 196 riders, there's only a 30% chance of one of them can win. And that would be with a zero over, a full book. So the bookies seem to think, a lot of fans seem to think it's between the two of them. Fans are torn between whether it's going to be Nibali or Landa. But, there's a top quality field behind them, and anything can happen in a 3-week tour. At short prices like that, there has to be value elsewhere.
No, you're right. It's, a 3-week tour. Anything can happen. I think the chances of injury are pretty high. I have to say, as an outsider, and also, what you were saying in the beginning as well, about sort of certain teams are focused on different races. My money is actually on Rigoberto Uran, price 16, bet 365. Cannondale has made no secret of the fact that Giro is the team's big goal for this year, and that Rigo is the rider that they'll be backing. Is that a good dark horse? Am I in the right direction? Or have you got any other dark horses in mind?
Yeah, I mean, Uran has, the team and Uran have made no secret of the fact that they're really targeting the race this week. He's got some good support riders, David Formolo, Joe Dombrowski. It's a strong team. Uran has gone very well in recent years in Grand Tours. He's never finished on a podium on one, though, and his form this year has been mixed. He's sort of been hit and miss where he's been going well, and other times he's gone badly. A couple of years ago, there was a time trial in the Giro where he destroyed the field. Basically, he won by, I think it was a minute and a half from the next rider. On a similar type of time trial to, I think it's stage 10 this year is the time trial over the hills of the Chianti region. And if he can pull off a time trial like that this year, it'll put him right in contention. He's a good climber. He'll be able to stay there with the likes of Nibali and Landa on most of the climbs. But there are other times where he completely flops in time trials. And I think it was last year he had a disastrous time trial, totally ruined his chances. So he's a bit hit and miss, Uran. It's hard to know from one year to the next what kind of performance he's going to put out. But yeah, I think if he's ever going to win a Grand Tour, this is probably his best chance with the field that he's facing. Mm-hmm. But beside him, then there's a couple of riders that are sort of around the same price. You've got Ilnur Zakarin riding for the Katusha team, who's one of my fancies actually for this. He sort of burst onto the scene in the last couple of years. He was incredibly impressive last year in the Tour Romandy. He came very close to winning the Tour Romandy again this year. He finished fourth just off the podium, but he actually beat Nairo Quintana in one of the toughest stages in a sprint when the two of them had got away from everybody else, but he had sprinted a little erratically and the organisers of the race decided to demote him to second. In the end, the bonus seconds that he lost by finishing second instead of first actually cost him a place in the podium. It cost him third place. He was 25 to 1 that day that he beat Quintana in that stage, and I had a little bet on him at 25 to 1 at that time. And since then, his price has started to tumble. I think he's best price, I'm just having a look here. His best price around 14 to 1 now, as short as 9 to 1. And he could be a real dark horse here. He's still a young guy. He's still kind of a bit of an unknown quantity, but he'll have the power of the Katusha team behind him, who are quite strong. Another fancy that I have is the Polish rider Rafał Majka. He's seems to be very much under the radar this week, which surprises me because he's a top quality rider. He's done very well in Grand Tours in the past. He's won the Tour of Poland. He can time trial, he can climb, and he's got a good team with Tinkoff Saxo. Sorry, not Tinkoff Saxo anymore, Tinkoff with him for this. So I think he's about the same price, and they were two picks that I've gone with against the short price favourites.
And who would you back at this point, or is it sort of too earlier stage?
I think in terms of, if you're going to plump for one of the top two, as we've said, they're the most likely winners of the race. Vincenzo Nibali is a top quality rider, has won the Tour de France, has finished first, second and third in the Giro in the past, has got a strong Astana team with him. Landa, first time leading a Grand Tour for Sky. He's got a good team with him as well. And it's going to be all about the battle between the two teams, the top teams, Astana and Sky, to see who can burn out the support riders the soonest and isolate the leaders. So if Astana can put the pressure on Sky, Landa might be isolated towards the top of some of the big climbs, and Nibali might be able to attack him and get away. But the point you were just asking about is, would you back them now? I think it's not until stage 6 that they tackle the first uphill finish when they are in the Apennines. They've got the time trial on the first day. Then there's some flat stages across windswept Lower Holland. And anything can happen. One split in the wind, one crash, touch of wheels riders are notoriously nervous, and it's often very dangerous in the first couple of stages. You have 198 guys, full of energy, very nervous, and all it takes is a touch of wheels and somebody like Nibali going down, and your 6 to 4 money is gone in the first couple of days.
Yeah.
I don't think his price was shortened in any way, neither would Landa. If anything, there's potential that their price could actually go out a little bit in the first couple of days. And it may even be that you could wait until before the big time trial in Chianti on stage 10, I think it is. So with regards to top two, I'd wait. I'd wait a while. I don't think their price is going to get any shorter. You get a picture of maybe how well they're going. They might lose some of their support riders in crashes and so on the first few days. So I don't think there's any value really in backing them now rather than waiting for a few days.
Okay, fantastic stuff. That rounds off our 2016 Giro d'Italia favourites. We now head on over to discuss the popular props betting markets. Ian, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Natalie. Always a pleasure.